Be me, 32 years old and working as a senior account manager at a marketing firm. Been grinding at this company for about 6 years now, and I know every single client personally. My name is Marcus, and I live in a decent apartment downtown with my girlfriend Tara. She works as a nurse at the city hospital and pulls crazy overnight shifts all the time. We have been together for 3 years now, and things are pretty stable between us. Life is not glamorous, but I genuinely enjoy my routine and the work that I do. Paycheck hits every 2 weeks, and I never have to stress about paying rent on time. The company is called Elevation Marketing Solutions, and we have been around for about 15 years. We handle advertising campaigns and brand strategy for about 40 different clients total. Mix of local businesses like restaurants and gyms, plus some bigger national brands too. Our biggest client is a regional chain of auto dealerships called Prestige Motors. They spend roughly $200,000 per year with us on various campaigns and promotions. My job is basically to keep clients happy and solve whatever problems they throw at me. I wine and dine them and make sure they feel valued and heard at all times. Been Employee of the Quarter 3 times running, and I am proud of that. Honestly, my team is solid, and we have a good dynamic that works really well together. My buddy Vince handles the creative department, and he is 34 with a wife and kid. Guy named Keith does all our analytics and data stuff, and he is 28 and super shy. We also have Nicole and Brooke on the accounts team handling smaller clients than mine. Our boss is a guy named Richard, who has been running this place for 20 years. He is old school and wears suits every day, but he is fair and pays us well. Office vibe is pretty chill and collaborative, and we actually enjoy coming to work most days. Every Friday after work, we grab beers at the sports bar down the street together. October rolls around, and Richard calls an unexpected all-hands meeting in the big conference room. Everyone files in looking confused because we never have meetings on Friday afternoons. Richard stands at the front of the room looking older than I have ever seen him. He clears his throat and announces that he is retiring at the end of the year. The room goes completely silent, and I can hear the air conditioning humming above us. Turns out he has been planning this for a while and wants to travel with his wife. They bought an RV and are going to drive across the country, visiting national parks. The board of directors has already started the search for his replacement from outside the company. We will meet the new director sometime next month once they finalize the hiring processes. Everyone is nervous because change is scary, especially when things are working just fine. November 3rd arrives and the new director walks through the front doors for the first time. Her name is Ramona Hartley, and she is in her mid-40s with an intense energy. First thing I notice is the hair, which is dyed deep purple and cut asymmetrically, short and shaved on one side, and longer and swooping on the other side, dramatically. She wears thick, rimmed red glasses that probably cost more than my entire outfit combined. All black clothing from head to toe, like she is attending a very fashionable funeral. Pronouns listed in her email signature as she, her, which I notice immediately when she sends messages. Her LinkedIn profile says she has an MBA from Columbia and a background in nonprofit leadership. First day on the job, she sends a company-wide email blast to every single employee. Subject line reads, "A new era of leadership," in bold letters with an exclamation point. I open it at my desk, expecting the normal welcome message and introduction stuff. Instead, I find myself reading something that sounds like an academic dissertation on gender theory. She talks about dismantling toxic masculine workplace culture that has infected corporate America. Says our company has been male-coded for decades and needs immediate structural reform. I genuinely have no idea what male-coded means, and I have a business degree myself. She announces she is forming something called the Gender Equity Council, effective immediately. Attendance is mandatory for all department heads and senior staff members, including myself. Meeting is scheduled for Thursday afternoon, and there will be reading materials distributed beforehand. I look over at Vince, and he has the same confused expression that I am wearing. Keith is reading the email with his mouth literally hanging open in disbelief at his screen. Nicole seems genuinely excited about it and is nodding enthusiastically as she reads along. Brooke looks deeply uncomfortable and keeps her eyes down, avoiding contact with anyone around her. This is going to be a very interesting transition period, I think to myself quietly. Thursday afternoon arrives, and I make my way to the big conference room nervously. The room is packed with every manager and senior employee in the entire company. Ramona stands at the front next to a large whiteboard covered in bullet points and diagrams. She has printed handouts for everyone, and they are stacked neatly on the table by the door. I grab one and see the cover page says Equity Audit Results in bold red letters. Flip through it quickly and feel a growing sense of dread building in my stomach. Ramona clears her throat dramatically and begins her presentation with obvious passion and conviction. Says she spent her first week analyzing 6 months' worth of meeting transcripts and recordings. Used some kind of AI software to track speaking patterns and interruption frequencies meticulously. According to her data, men spoke 67% of the time in mixed-gender meetings. Women were interrupted 3.2 times more often than men during collaborative discussions. Apparently, she pauses for effect and looks around the room with a grave, serious expression. This is systemic silencing, she explains, in a tone that suggests we should be horrified. This is violence against women in the workplace, and it has been tolerated for too long. Everyone nods along like this makes complete sense, even though I have questions about methodology. I raise my hand like an idiot because I cannot help myself when data seems flawed. Ramona looks at me with visible irritation before reluctantly calling on me to speak. "Yes, you in the blue button-down shirt," she says, pointing at me dismissively. "My name is Marcus, and I have been working here for about 6 years now," I say. "I know," she responds curtly. "I read your personnel file before this meeting started already." "Okay, well, I just have a question about the methodology used in this analysis. Were these meetings analyzed for context at all, or just raw speaking time numbers? Like sometimes people talk more because they are the ones presenting the material to the group." The room goes completely silent, and I can feel everyone's eyes burning into my skull. Ramona smiles, but it is the kind of smile that does not reach her eyes at all. That is exactly the kind of derailing behavior I expected from someone in your position. You are centering male comfort over female lived experience, which is part of the problem. I am not trying to derail anything. I am just asking a question about your data. She cuts me off with a sharply raised hand before I can finish my sentence. "We are not doing this right now, Marcus," she says firmly with an edge in her voice. "Your defensiveness has been noted and will be documented in your personnel file officially." Vince kicks me hard under the table to signal that I should shut up immediately. I get the message loud and clear and sink back into my chair, feeling embarrassed. Keep your head down and ride this out is clearly the smart play right now. This is not a battle worth fighting, especially not on my first interaction with her. Ramona continues with her presentation as if my interruption never happened at all. Announces a series of new policies that will be effective immediately, starting next Monday. All meetings must have a designated speaking time tracker to monitor gender participation rates. If men exceed 50% of the total speaking time, the meeting will be ended immediately. Women will be given first opportunity to speak on all agenda items, without exception. Men must wait to be called upon directly by the meeting facilitator before contributing. Interrupting a woman while she is speaking is now a written warning offense officially. 3 warnings accumulated over any time period results in immediate termination. No exceptions allowed. Keith looks like he might actually vomit right there in the conference room. Honestly, he is naturally shy and barely speaks in meetings anyway, so this seems cruel to him. Vince is staring at the table with a completely blank expression, giving away nothing. I am sitting there trying to calculate how many years until I can afford to retire. The answer is way too many years, and that realization makes me feel even worse. First week under the new policies is absolute chaos from start to finish every day. Monday morning, we have a strategy session scheduled with one of our bigger clients. Client is a local restaurant chain that is expanding to 3 new locations this year. Me and Vince and Nicole are on the video call, presenting our campaign concepts together. Ramona has installed a literal digital timer on the wall that tracks male speaking time. When men hit 50% of elapsed time, a red light starts flashing obnoxiously above it. I'm in the middle of presenting the campaign concepts that I personally developed last month. Get about 3 minutes into my explanation, and suddenly the red light starts flashing. Ramona clears her throat loudly and obnoxiously from her seat in the corner of the room. Marcus, you have exceeded your allotted time allocation and need to stop speaking now. But I am literally in the middle of explaining the core strategy to the client. Nicole, would you like to continue the presentation from here, please? She says, ignoring me. Nicole looks absolutely panicked because she was not involved in developing this campaign at all. She did not attend the planning meetings and does not know any of the details I know. Nicole stammers through some generic marketing buzzwords, trying to fake her way through it, talks about synergy and brand awareness and engagement metrics without any actual substance. The client, whose name is Robert, is frowning deeply at his camera, looking confused. I can see him on my screen trying to figure out what is happening on our end. He interrupts and asks politely if I can please finish explaining the strategy myself. Ramona jumps in before I can even open my mouth to respond to his request. We are implementing equity-based speaking protocols here at Elevation, Robert, she explains. It is very important that all voices in the room are heard equally during meetings. Robert looks even more confused than before, and I cannot blame him for that reaction. Meeting ends with absolutely nothing decided and no clear action items established for anyone. Robert sends me a private email about 10 minutes after the call disconnects. Marcus, what the hell is going on over there at your company? He writes. I start typing a response explaining everything and then delete it all immediately. Type another version that is more diplomatic and then delete that one too. Finally, just write, we are going through a management transition period, and hit send. He replies with just a question mark and an ellipses, and nothing else. After that, I genuinely do not know what else I can tell him at this point, honestly. Week 2 arrives, and things escalate significantly further than I thought possible. Ramona calls an all-hands meeting for Wednesday morning, with no explanation in the invite. Stands at the front of the room and says she has been reviewing client interaction data, noticed what she calls a troubling pattern in our account management practices. Overall, male employees are monopolizing client relationships and excluding women from key accounts. Apparently, this creates unhealthy dependency dynamics and prevents women from advancing in their careers. She announces a new client rotation policy that will be implemented effective immediately. All accounts will be redistributed across the team to ensure proper gender balance. I feel my stomach drop through the floor and my heart start racing in my chest. I have spent 6 years building these relationships carefully through consistent, hard work. Clients trust me because I know their businesses intimately and care about their success. You cannot just swap account managers around like interchangeable parts on an assembly line. I raise my hand again, even though I know it is probably a stupid move. Ramona sighs heavily and visibly before calling on me with obvious reluctance showing. I try to be as diplomatic as possible and choose my words very carefully. These client relationships took years of consistent effort to build and maintain properly. Clients have specific preferences and establish comfort levels with their account managers. Rotating accounts arbitrarily might cause confusion and potentially lead to client losses for us. Ramona tilts her head and looks at me like I am a child who needs educating. Marcus, your resistance to equity initiatives is becoming a very noticeable pattern. She says, these relationships you describe sound a lot like gatekeeping behavior designed to maintain power. You are hoarding access to key clients to maintain male dominance within this company. I literally do not know how to respond to an accusation that insane and disconnected. I am not hoarding anything. I am just doing the job you hired me to do. Vince puts his hand firmly on my arm to signal that I need to calm down. I shut my mouth and sit back in my chair and try to control my breathing. This is obviously not a fight I'm going to win today or any other day. The account redistribution happens the following Monday without any further discussion or input. My auto dealership client, Prestige Motors, gets reassigned to Brooke, effective immediately. She has only been working here for about 8 months and is barely trained on accounts. Meanwhile, I get reassigned to a small artisanal bakery account that bills maybe $15,000 annually. Went from managing a $200,000 annual client to a tiny local bakery overnight. Try not to think too hard about what this is going to do to my commission checks. Call my girlfriend Tara that night, feeling completely defeated and demoralized about everything. She listens patiently while I vent for about 40 minutes about the insanity at work. Babe, that sounds absolutely insane, and I am so sorry you are dealing with this. Can you talk to HR about any of this stuff or file some kind of complaint? I laugh bitterly at the suggestion because she does not understand the situation fully. Ramona basically controls HR now and has installed her own people in key positions there. Tara suggests that maybe I should start quietly looking for other job opportunities elsewhere. I tell her I will think about it seriously because she is probably right about that. Week 3 brings what I can only describe as the nuclear option that nobody expected. Ramona sends out calendar invites for a brand new recurring meeting series starting next week. Subject line says, Women Strategic Planning Sessions, which seems pretty self-explanatory, honestly. I check the invite list out of curiosity and frown deeply at what I see there. Only female employees are included on the invite, and all men are explicitly excluded. The meetings are scheduled during prime working hours in the middle of the day. Even worse, they directly overlap with several existing client calls that I have scheduled. Vince messages me on Slack immediately after he notices the calendar invites appear. Bro, are we actually banned from attending meetings now, or am I reading this wrong? I forward him the calendar invite so he can see the details for himself clearly. He replies with just a long string of expletives, which about sums up my feelings too. Keith joins the Slack thread and asks what is happening because he saw the invites too. We fill him in on what we have pieced together, and he goes completely silent after. I decide to go ask Ramona directly about this because I need to understand what is happening. Walk to her corner office and knock politely on the doorframe to announce myself. She looks up from her laptop screen with those cold, calculating eyes that unsettle me. Marcus, do you have an appointment scheduled with me today? Because I do not see one. No, I do not. But I had a quick question about some scheduling conflicts I noticed. She sighs dramatically and gestures for me to sit in the chair across from her desk. I ask her about the women-only strategic planning meetings that appeared on the calendar. Explain that I have several client calls scheduled during those exact time slots already. Also wondering how decisions made in those meetings will be communicated to the rest of us. She leans back in her expensive ergonomic chair and studies me like a specimen in a jar. These meetings are designed to be safe spaces for women to strategize freely together. They need space to think and plan without the pressure of male presence and scrutiny. You and the other men have been dominating strategy conversations here for 6 years or more. It is time for women to lead without male interference constantly derailing their ideas. Decisions made in these meetings will be communicated on a strict need-to-know basis only. You will receive your tasks and assignments via email, and you will execute them as directed. I feel like I have stepped through a portal into some kind of alternate dimension. So the men just do whatever we are told without any input or context from now on? She smiles, and it is genuinely one of the most unsettling things I have ever seen. Now you are starting to understand how women have felt in the workplace for centuries. Consider this an educational experience in equity and use it as an opportunity to grow. I leave her office feeling like a ghost of the person I was just an hour ago. The next several weeks blur together into a haze of confusion and frustration every single day. The women have their planning meetings and make all the strategic decisions behind closed doors. The men receive emails with tasks and deadlines, but absolutely no context or explanation whatsoever. Just complete this deliverable by Friday type communications with no room for questions or input. We have been reduced to task completion robots, with no agency or voice in the process. The creativity and collaboration that made this job enjoyable have been completely stripped away. Vince stops eating lunch in the break room and just sits alone at his desk instead. He wears headphones all day and barely talks to anyone, including me, his closest friend. Keith has gone completely silent and withdrawn even more than his usual shy baseline. He barely makes eye contact with anyone and just does his work without speaking at all. Even the women seem uncomfortable with the new dynamic, but nobody dares to say anything. The overall vibe in the office has become genuinely toxic, but not in the way Ramona claimed. Client relationships start deteriorating at an alarming rate across the entire company portfolio. Brooke calls me in a panic on a random Tuesday afternoon, sounding close to tears. Marcus, the auto dealership client, is asking me questions that I do not know how to answer. They want specifics about the campaign performance that I was never briefed on properly. Can you please help me prepare for the call tomorrow so I do not embarrass myself? I genuinely want to help her because I know the situation is not her fault at all. But Ramona has explicitly forbidden what she calls male coaching of female employees. Now says it perpetuates harmful incompetence narratives and undermines women's professional development and confidence. I tell Brooke that I am sorry, but I cannot help her directly with this. Suggests that she ask Ramona or Nicole for guidance, since they are in the planning meetings. She looks like she might actually start crying right there at her desk in front of everyone. I feel absolutely terrible, but my hands are completely tied by these insane policies. The client call happens the next day, and it goes about as badly as expected. Brooke stumbles through questions she cannot answer, and the client grows increasingly frustrated. Robert from Prestige Motors sends a formal complaint to our company that same afternoon. Says he feels ignored and confused and is considering taking his business elsewhere immediately. Brooke gets blamed for the poor performance and put on a formal performance improvement plan. The irony of the situation is completely lost on Ramona, who caused this entire mess. 2 more clients leave the agency within the same week, citing similar concerns and complaints. Both specifically request transfers to other agencies and refuse to continue working with us. The exit interviews reveal that they felt ignored and confused by their recent experiences. Ramona blames the male employees for secretly sabotaging relationships before we handed over accounts. Says we poisoned the well intentionally to make the women look bad and prove a point. Announces she is launching an investigation into potential malicious compliance behavior among male staff. I do not even know what malicious compliance means, but it sounds like I am in trouble. December arrives, and Ramona announces that the annual holiday party has been canceled this year. Says it would be problematic to have a celebration that involves alcohol consumption at work. Too much drinking leads to inappropriate male behavior and makes women feel unsafe, she claims. Instead of a party, we will have a reflection and growth seminar on a Saturday morning. Attendance is mandatory for all employees and will be held at the office at 9 a.m. sharp. The topic is deconstructing masculine entitlement in professional environments, which sounds absolutely miserable. I text Vince that Saturday morning asking if he is actually planning to show up for this. He replies that he already called in sick and is going to spend the day with his kid. Keith says he has a sudden family emergency that requires his immediate attention this weekend. I seriously consider making up some excuse to get out of it myself, honestly. But I am increasingly paranoid about retaliation, given everything that has happened so far. So I drag myself out of bed and drive to the office, feeling like I am heading to prison. The seminar is led by an outside consultant that Ramona hired specifically for this session. Her name is Dr. Patricia Wexler, and she has multiple degrees listed after her name. She has us do various exercises that feel deeply humiliating and uncomfortable throughout the morning. First, the men have to stand up in front of everyone and apologize for historical oppression. We take turns reading scripted apologies for things that happened before we were even born. Then we write letters to our inner patriarch, confronting our internalized toxic masculinity. Then we have small group discussions about specific ways we have harmed women unknowingly. The women in the room look almost as uncomfortable as we do, which says something. I write my stupid letter and read it aloud to the group as required by the exercise. I apologize for things I am not even sure I actually did or believe I did. Dr. Patricia nods approvingly at my performance and says I am making progress on my journey. Tells me I should continue this work independently and recommends several books I should read. I feel like I have lost a small piece of my soul that I will never get back. Go home after the seminar ends and drink a beer alone in complete silence on my couch. Tara is working a double shift at the hospital, so I do not have anyone to talk to. Honestly, I do not think I want to talk to anyone anyway, so it works out fine. January arrives and brings with it the real consequences of everything that has been happening. The Q4 financial numbers come in, and they are absolutely catastrophic across every metric. Revenue is down 34% compared to the same quarter last year, which is a disaster. Client retention rate has dropped from 89% to 61% in just a few months' time. Ramona calls an emergency all-hands meeting, and for the first time, she looks genuinely stressed. She presents the numbers to the room without her usual confidence and self-righteous showing. Tries to blame external market conditions and general economic uncertainty for the poor performance. Blames clients for being resistant to progressive partnerships and not embracing our new values. Blames the male employees for secretly sabotaging her equity initiatives out of spite and resentment. Notably, she does not blame herself for any of the decisions that led us to this point. The lack of self-awareness would be impressive if it were not so infuriating to witness. She announces emergency cost-cutting measures that will be effective immediately, starting today. No bonuses this year for anyone in the company, regardless of individual performance metrics. Salary freeze across the board for all positions, with no exceptions or negotiations allowed. Also announces that she is laying off 3 people from the creative department immediately. I look at the list of names and feel my heart sink into my stomach. All 3 are men, and one of them is Vince, who has been my closest friend here. I walk over to his desk after the meeting ends, feeling numb and disconnected from reality. He is already packing his personal belongings into a small cardboard box in silence. His face is completely blank, and he is not showing any emotion whatsoever right now. 6 years, Marcus, he says without looking up from the family photo he is wrapping. 6 years of my life here, and I get 15 minutes to clear out my desk. I stand there not knowing what to say because nothing seems adequate for this moment. I am so sorry, man. This is completely messed up, and you do not deserve this. He just shrugs and carefully places his small desk plant into the box with everything else. Ramona appears behind me with a security guard escort standing beside her, looking serious. Vince, your mandatory exit interview is scheduled in conference room B in 5 minutes, she says. He looks up at her with an expression of pure contempt that I have never seen before. I have absolutely nothing to say to you, Ramona, so you can skip the interview. She smiles that cold smile that I have grown to genuinely hate over these past months. That is your choice, of course, but attendance at the exit interview is mandatory policy. He follows the security guard out of the main office area without saying another word to anyone. I never see him in the building again after that moment, and it breaks something inside me. Keith quits the very next day without giving any notice or advance warning to anyone. Sends a one-line email that just says, "I resigned from my position effective immediately." He does not even bother coming back to collect his personal belongings from his desk. I text him a few times over the next week, but he never responds to any messages. Find out through LinkedIn a few weeks later that he got a job at a competitor agency. Good for him, honestly, because he deserves way better than what he experienced here. I start secretly job hunting that same week while trying to maintain appearances at work. Update my LinkedIn profile settings to show that I am open to new opportunities. Within 2 days, I have 4 different recruiters reaching out to me about positions. Turns out that experienced account managers with my track record are actually quite valuable. Who would have thought that skills and experience and results actually matter in business? I schedule interviews during my lunch breaks and keep everything as discreet as possible. One company in particular seems very interested in my background and experience level. They are a smaller boutique agency, but they are growing rapidly and have good clients. The founder is actually a woman named Denise Park, who started the company 5 years ago. She seems completely normal and professional, and genuinely competent at what she does. Asks thoughtful questions about my experience, and actually listens to my answers respectfully. Does not mention gender politics or equity initiatives or speaking time ratios once. I feel like I can actually breathe again for the first time in months. I get a formal offer from them about 2 weeks later, and the terms are excellent. 20% salary increase plus a significantly better commission structure and full benefits package. I accept the offer immediately, without even attempting to negotiate for more money. Just want to get out of this place as quickly as humanly possible. At this point, I submit my 2 weeks' notice to Ramona, in writing, via email the following morning. She does not even pretend to care about losing me or try to convince me to stay. Just replies, "Your replacement will obviously be female," and nothing else, which says everything. My last 2 weeks at Elevation are surprisingly peaceful compared to everything that came before. I spend most of my time training my replacement, who is a woman named Brittany. She seems reasonably competent and asks good questions about the accounts and processes. I feel bad leaving her in this dysfunctional situation, knowing what she is walking into. Try to warn her subtly about the office dynamics without being too explicit about details. She seems to pick up on what I am implying and thanks me quietly for the heads up. My last day finally arrives, and I pack up my desk belongings in a small box. I decline the exit interview because I have nothing constructive to say to these people. Send a brief goodbye email to the few people in the office that I actually still like. Nicole replies saying she is also actively looking to leave as soon as possible. Brooke replies saying she is genuinely sorry about everything that happened over the past months. Nobody else responds to my email, which is completely fine with me at this point. I walk out of the building for the last time, and the sun is shining brightly outside. I stand on the sidewalk for a moment and realize that I feel genuinely free, finally. Call Tara immediately and tell her that I am officially done with that nightmare place. She tells me she is proud of me for surviving that experience and coming out okay. We make plans to go out for a nice dinner to celebrate my escape and new beginning. I start my new job the following Monday morning, feeling nervous but genuinely excited. The office is smaller than Elevation, but the vibe is completely and refreshingly different. People actually talk to each other like normal human beings and seem to enjoy their work. Meetings happen, and everyone contributes based on their expertise and knowledge of the subject. Nobody tracks speaking time or monitors gender participation ratios or enforces equity protocols. It is just people doing their jobs well and collaborating effectively. And it feels amazing. Denise runs a tight ship, but she is fair and reasonable and actually values good work. She promotes based on performance and results rather than demographic characteristics or ideology. The clients are happy because we actually focus on serving their needs instead of lecturing them. I remember why I got into marketing in the first place and fell in love with this work. It was never about gender politics. It was about creativity and strategy and helping businesses grow. About 3 months into my new job, I get an unexpected text message one evening. It is from Nicole, my former coworker from Elevation, who I have not heard from since leaving. The message just says, You absolutely need to see this. Followed by a link to an article. I click the link while sitting on my couch, and my jaw literally drops open in shock. The headline reads, "Local marketing firm closes doors after mass client and employee exodus." I read through the entire article with a mixture of vindication and genuine disbelief. Elevation Marketing Solutions is shutting down permanently, effective at the end of the month. They lost 78% of their client base over the past 6 months since I left. Nearly all remaining staff members resigned, leaving only Ramona and 2 junior employees behind. The company cannot meet payroll obligations or afford the rent on their office space anymore. Ramona is quoted extensively in the article, defending her leadership and vision for the company. Says the marketing industry is fundamentally hostile to progressive business practices and equity values. Blames a coordinated harassment campaign orchestrated by disgruntled former male employees for the failure. Notably, she does not accept any personal responsibility for the decisions that destroyed the company. I screenshot the article and immediately send it to Vince, who I have stayed in touch with. He replies with a single, laughing, crying emoji and nothing else for about 5 minutes. Then sends a follow-up message saying, "We absolutely need to get drinks and celebrate properly." I enthusiastically agree, and we make plans to meet up at our old bar that weekend. Sitting at the bar on Saturday night, Vince fills me in on details the article left out. Apparently, clients were specifically requesting not to work with Ramona on their accounts anymore. Robert from Prestige Motors told Brooke explicitly why he was taking his business elsewhere. Said he felt constantly disrespected and lectured during meetings instead of actually being helped. Said he was paying for marketing expertise, not gender studies seminars about equity and privilege. Other departing clients reportedly said very similar things about their experiences with the new elevation. Vince got a new job at a growing tech company and is making significantly more money now. He actually seems happy for the first time in a long time, which is great to see. Keith is apparently thriving at the competitor agency and just got promoted last month. Nicole ended up at a nonprofit doing marketing and communications work and loves it there. Brooke went back to graduate school to completely change careers away from marketing entirely. Everyone who escaped that sinking ship has landed on their feet and is doing much better. We raise our glasses and toast to surviving the Ramona experience with our sanity mostly intact. Vince says he learned a really valuable and expensive lesson from everything that happened. When ideology becomes more important than actual results, everything eventually falls apart completely. You simply cannot run a functional business on pure ideology while ignoring basic business fundamentals. At some point, you have to actually serve the customer and deliver value, or you will fail. I think he is absolutely right about that, and the evidence speaks for itself clearly. I finish my beer and sit there thinking about everything that happened over the past year. It was genuinely rough, and there were moments when I did not know if I would survive it. But ultimately, I came out of it stronger and wiser and better positioned for success. Learn to recognize red flags much earlier and trust my instincts when something feels wrong. Learn that my skills and experience have real value in the market and I should not settle. Learn that some battles are simply not worth fighting, no matter how right you might be. And most importantly, learn that some ships are not worth staying on as they sink. Tara picks me up from the bar that night because I had a few too many celebratory drinks. She asks me how the reunion with Vince went and if we had a good time catching up. I tell her it was genuinely therapeutic and something I really needed after everything. She holds my hand as she drives us home through the quiet, late-night streets. Says she is really glad I got out when I did before things got even worse. Me too, babe. Me too, I say quietly while watching the streetlights pass by outside. About a year later, I am called into Denise's office on a Friday afternoon. Unexpectedly, she tells me to sit down, and I feel a brief moment of anxiety about what this might be. Marcus, your numbers this quarter have been absolutely incredible across every single metric. She says, clients genuinely love working with you, and the rest of the team really respects your leadership. I have decided to promote you to Director of Accounts, effective at the beginning of next month. Comes with a significant raise, and you will have 3 account managers reporting directly to you. I thank her sincerely and shake her hand, feeling a wave of genuine pride wash over me. She laughs and tells me not to get too sentimental, because we have a lot of work ahead. I promise her I will not let her down, and I walk out of her office feeling amazing. I think about where I was exactly 1 year ago at the same point in time. I was miserable and silenced and actively planning my escape from a nightmare situation. I was being blamed for systemic problems I had nothing to do with creating or perpetuating. I was watching my commission checks shrink while my workload increased with no recognition. Now I am thriving and valued and respected and being promoted based on my actual merit. Funny how leaving a toxic situation and betting on yourself can change absolutely everything. Sometimes the best and bravest thing you can possibly do is simply walk away. I check LinkedIn later that evening out of pure curiosity more than anything else. Search for Ramona Hartley to see what happened to her after the company collapsed. Her profile now says Independent Equity Consultant, which sounds about right, honestly. She has 47 connections and no activity posted in the past 6 months at all. Her last post was about resilience and perseverance in the face of systemic opposition. It has 3 likes total and 1 supportive comment that appears to be from her mother. I almost feel a tiny bit bad for her for about half a second. Honestly, then I remember everything she put all of us through, and the feeling passes immediately. I close LinkedIn and put my phone down on the coffee table firmly. Tara is cooking dinner in the kitchen, and the apartment smells absolutely incredible. My life is genuinely good right now, and I worked really hard to get to this place. I am not going to waste any more mental energy dwelling on the past anymore. The only direction that actually matters at this point is forward, toward bigger and better things. Send Vince a photo of my new business cards that just arrived from the printer today. He replies, "Director, huh? Look at you, fancy corporate big shot," with several laughing emojis. I send him back a middle finger emoji, and we go back and forth joking around. He sends a beer emoji and says, "We need to celebrate this promotion properly soon." I agree completely and put my phone away while smiling to myself about how things turned out. Some people learn important lessons from their failures and mistakes and become better for it. And some people never learn anything at all and keep making the same mistakes repeatedly forever. Ramona clearly never learned that respect and competence have to go in both directions to work. She never learned that equality means actually equal treatment, not revenge or punishment for past wrongs. She never learned that businesses exist primarily to serve their customers, not to push ideology. She burned her company to the ground and blamed literally everyone except herself for the ashes. It is a classic pattern of behavior that I have seen play out many times since then. Me, though, I learned plenty of valuable lessons from that whole miserable experience. Learn to trust my gut instinct when something feels fundamentally wrong about a situation. Learn that staying silent is not always the smart or safe play it seems to be. Learn that knowing when to leave a bad situation is actually an incredibly valuable skill. Learn that there are good companies and good leaders out there if you look for them. And I learned that karma is very real, and sometimes you get to watch it happen. Tara calls me to the table because dinner is ready and I should stop staring at my phone. I walk to the kitchen and sit down across from her at our small dining table. She asks about my day, and I tell her about the promotion and how excited I am. She smiles and says she always knew I would land on my feet after everything. I tell her I could not have gotten through any of it without her support, honestly. She waves off the compliment, but I can tell she appreciates me saying it out loud. We eat dinner together and talk about our plans for the weekend and the future ahead. Life is simple and stable and genuinely happy in a way I was not sure I would find again. I think about the version of myself that was sitting in that conference room 2 years ago, being lectured about my privilege and being told my voice mattered less because of my gender. That version of me was angry and confused and did not know what the future would hold. This version of me is grateful and confident and excited about what comes next. My face when the feminist boss played herself completely and destroyed her own company. And I somehow ended up significantly better off than I was before any of it started. Life is genuinely weird and unpredictable like that sometimes. And you never know how things will turn out. You survive the storm and find sunshine waiting on the other side if you just keep moving. Just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter how hard it gets.